ladies and gentlemen. This is a story that came out in the Joplin Globe. I want to thank one of my subscribers, JG, for sending this story. Opioid emergency room visits are increasing. And this is dated August 17th, 2018. All right, I'm going to go ahead and see if I can play this video. Okay. I don't know who filmed that, but that's very out of focus. Okay, so this story comes out of Atlanta. Drug overdoses killed more than 72,000 Americans in 2017, up 6.6% from the year before, according to estimates from the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. The overdose death toll has doubled over the last decade and claims more than 180 people a day. And then I did another article and it said 200, but they're both lowballing it. Opioids are the biggest cause of overdose deaths. The CDC projects some 49,000 people will have died from them in 2017. Once all the counting is done, opioids include prescription painkillers, oxycodone, hydrocodone, codeine, morphine, along with heroin and other illegal synthetic opioid drugs. And as you can see, you know, the synthetic drugs, the fentanyl that comes out of China is high as far as cause of death. Heroin, natural and semi-synthetic opioids. Really, all of them are high. It's the synthetic opioids, including fentanyl, that appears to be fueling much of the increase in overdose deaths. Fentanyl is a powerful synthetic opioid painkiller that is similar to morphine, but 50 to 100 times more potent. In 2017, there were more than 29,000 deaths involving those drugs, a 22-fold increase from 2002. Fentanyl contributed to the deaths of musicians, skipping over that because they keep talking about that like that's important. You know, it's far more people to worry about than some celebrities. The highest drug overdose death rates in the West, in West Virginia, Pennsylvania, and Ohio. Plain states had some of the lowest death rates. Okay. So I'm not surprised that, you know, the emergency room visits are increasing. In fact, when I had to take my son to the emergency room, probably like about a year ago, they were talking about all of the drug addicts that come in there. And, you know, the number of them coming in was increasing. So I know that's not only New Jersey, it's got to be all over the country. But nothing new here. You know, it's a shame, but as long as the drugs are readily available for people to get to, you know, the illegal drugs, this is going to happen. Please tell me what you think. Share the video, like the video, and definitely share your comment. And I will see you on the next video. Peace, family. is an article that came out August 16th, 2018, Share Blue Media. Overdose deaths skyrocket, and Trump's trade war may make it worse. So we know they are reporting a number of 72,300 Americans died from overdose deaths in 2017, which we know it's way higher than that. So it's up 10% from 2016. Now, we know most of the deaths are coming from fentanyl and the fentanyl analogs that are coming out of China. And this is what the CDC is reporting. So there has been an increase, and this right now they're saying is the biggest amount of people to die in 1 year. So 2017 has been a historic year for overdose deaths here in America. And again, the drugs are coming out of China. That is really the biggest culprit to why this is happening. Synthetics are often found mixed with other drugs like meth and cocaine. And you see it's also in marijuana as well. They're also putting the fentanyl in that. And that is what accounted for all of those people getting sick up there in Connecticut just 2 days ago. Unexpected combination of those drugs can overwhelm and even experienced drug users. The New York Times reports in some places the type of synthetic drugs mixed into heroin changes often, increasing the risk for users. So the number they had reported for 2016 was 64,000 deaths in America, and it involved a fentanyl or fentanyl-laced drug. While the increase in overdose deaths in 2018 was seen across the country, the problem is most severe in states such as Ohio, Indiana, and West Virginia. In those rural areas in all three of those states, that's where it's hardest hit, which have all seen double-digit percentages and increases in opioid-related deaths. On Wednesday, 25 people overdosed, and they're talking about New Haven. So, of course, we know that number was more close to 100. So this probably got done when that first started happening, this report. Despite pledging to combat the opioid plague, Trump has taken almost no action whatsoever to expand access to treatment, life-sustaining, life-saving measures for the addicts. Trump is not going to do anything. I told y'all this before. Look, it don't take this long for him to do something. It has gotten to the point this man don't even talk about this drug addiction publicly at all. That should be a sign right there. He's not going to do anything. To make matters even worse, Trump's reckless trade war could actually make it harder to control the flow of dangerous synthetic drugs like fentanyl into the United States. Law enforcement officials say China, the primary source of fentanyl, is producing as much as 90% of the world's supply. Until recently, there were very few laws or policies regulating fentanyl in China. But in 2015, the country added to its list of controlled substances. China is not going to do anything. I can tell you that right now. They've been crying to China now for a few years, and China is just letting that stuff flow in. Plus, I did a story yesterday telling you how a lot of the packages are coming in here and they're not even from China. China ships the packages to another foreign country, and then that foreign country takes the package and delivers it to America. So the packages, many of these packages that are not even marked for China are coming in here for drugs. Okay, so in March 2017, the US and Chinese drug enforcement agencies reached an agreement to jointly address the threat of illicit fentanyl in both countries. And we know China's not doing a damn thing because that stuff is still flowing in here like water. But now, with Trump threatening America's relationship with China by jumping headfirst into a trade war, all of the progress could be lost, meaning that the US could see a surge of fentanyl into the country, just as deaths from fentanyl are reaching historic highs. If the tariff imposed by Trump become permanent, it's most likely going to have a negative effect on other areas beyond trade. Former DEA agent Jeffrey Higgins told USA Today. China could say, "We are no longer going to cooperate with the United States on controlling these synthetic opioids," he added. Trump made the opioid plague a central part of his campaign platform, promising to devote the resources needed to combat the deadly scourge. But instead, the very people he pledged to help may now end up paying for his failures with their own lives. Deep, ladies and gentlemen, very deep. And to be honest with you, I think China is doing that now. I really do. I think they don't give a damn about those drugs coming here. You remember, this is what they use for chemical warfare. They send drugs in wherever they want to weaken a country or weaken a region. They've done it in the past. Can't rule it out. But please tell me what you think, ladies and gentlemen, about this story. Please leave your comment, subscribe, share the video, like the video. And ladies and gentlemen, enjoy your evening because this is going to be my last video for today. Peace, family. This is an article that I found that came out by The Trumpet, July 30th, 2018. I think you're going to find a lot of this interesting. You know, I've been saying for a while that China is using the fentanyl on the American people, you know, just like another opium war. But this time, China's going to win. They're going to win this war, y'all. It's too many people strung out on drugs. And America is still trying to go all light-handed with these drug addicts. And this is going to be one of the biggest destroying factors of America because they won't see this whole thing for what it is. I remember when I did my first video saying that China is using the fentanyl to destroy America. The first thing YouTube did was demonetize that video. But you know what? Here's the irony. 3 weeks later, I start seeing those stories crop up in the media. So here we go. You know, when you think they're not watching us, ladies and gentlemen, they're watching. I know they're watching me because I can go in and look at the demographics of who and where and what platforms are watching me. The mainstream media is watching many of us on YouTube. Fentanyl, China's secret weapon to destabilize America. Now, China has a history of using drugs on any region and nation that they want to destabilize. And when I get into this, you'll see what I mean. You'll see exactly what I mean. The United States is voluntarily exposing itself to a chemical attack. Since 2000, this assault has killed more than 700,000 Americans. The weapon is illegal drugs, and Americans are killing themselves with it. In addition to these drug overdoses, roughly 100,000 Americans have been killed in drug-related homicides. This epidemic is destroying the willpower of 28 million people and costing the economy over $1 trillion per year. Since 6 in 10 drug users under 34, these are the ones that are really dying, the ones 34 and under. These problems are likely to worsen in the near future. If a foreign enemy wanted to undermine America from within, facilitating a flow of illicit drugs into the country would be an effective way to do it. In fact, the People's Republic of China has adopted just such a strategy, and they have used it. China has used this on other countries. Drug overdose is now the leading cause of deaths for Americans under 50. The synthetic opioids like fentanyl are responsible for 1/3 of these fatal poisonings. Since fentanyl is up to 50 times more powerful than heroin, it is only legally available to cancer patients with a doctor's prescription. The majority of fentanyl in the US arrives illegally from China, directly through the mail or indirectly through Mexico. I want you to listen to this next part. You know, I did a video from an article and a video from NBC, and it talked about how easy it was to get drugs from the dark web. And that's the one that they terminated me for and said it was hate speech, and it wasn't. But listen to this. According to a Senate report released in January, Americans purchased nearly $800 million worth of fentanyl pills directly from Chinese chemical labs over a 2-year period. See, this is how it's done, ladies and gentlemen. They go out on the dark web. That just goes to show you there's a lot of people accessing the dark web and buying these drugs directly from China and having them delivered right to their house. Otherwise, that amount of money, it would never be that high. It's a lot of people doing this. So what ultimately happens is China has their websites set up on the dark web. And these folks go out looking to buy the drug directly from China. And China keeps itself anonymous by only accepting Bitcoins for the fentanyl. And then, of course, once they pay in Bitcoins, the Chinese sellers will then turn around and mail the packages of fentanyl through the U.S. Postal Service. So this is saying they sent approximately 500 packages of fentanyl through the U.S. Postal Service. Chinese labs have partnered with Mexican cartel to smuggle fentanyl into America. And we already know that. I mean, come on, there's no big secret. China is the main source of where all the fentanyl comes from. And we have known about the Mexican cartels and all the drugs flowing into America for a very long time. So it should not be surprised that these Chinese labs have partnered up with these drug cartels. Nobody should be shocked by that. But even all the supplies that they need to make meth, that comes from China into Mexico. Then the cartels make the meth. And they actually, are saying 1.2 million Americans are addicted to meth. And this next paragraph, all they're pretty much is saying is, China's working with America to crack down. And no, they're not. China's not lifting too much of a finger, y'all. Even in this article, it's telling you the Chinese government has taken no meaningful action because they don't care. China don't care about these Americans being strung out on drugs. They don't care. And if you remember, Trump was accusing them of flooding the US market with all of the fentanyl, and they were denying it and telling America to look domestically at the factors that are causing the drug crisis there and stop blaming China. Yeah, well, they are saying the same thing about Mexico. China's working with Mexico to help keep the drugs. And we know that stuff ain't working. We know it's not working. You got to be realistic. All of these drugs have never stopped flowing into the country, and it never will. The fact that Chinese companies and the Chinese mafia are trafficking dangerous drugs into America gives the Chinese government plausible deniability. An examination of Chinese military strategy, however, reveals that more is going on than meets the eye. The Chinese Communist Party has a long history of pushing illegal drugs into the hands of its enemy, and they use it as a form of chemical warfare. They use illicit drugs. Okay, now listen to this. After the start of the civil war between the Nationalist Party of China and the Communist Party of China, revolutionary leader Mao Zedong instructed his subordinates to begin cultivating poppies. So they started growing poppies to use in warfare, chemical warfare. That's what the growing of the poppies was for. So when they grew this poppy field, it was strictly used on their adversary because they were having a civil war. And this was the Communist Party that was growing poppies to use on the non-communist parts of China. The communists created opium, and then they start sending the opium into non-communist regions of China at that time. As the people in those areas used the readily available drugs, their societies, governments, and militaries became weaker, and the communists could then conquer the area. And they also used these drugs on Japan. After they did so, they outlawed the use of narcotics. After the Communist Party conquered mainland China in 1949, Mao nationalized opium production and started using narcotics as a chemical weapon to destabilize his foreign rivals, primarily Japan and the United States. Anybody surprised? I'm not. During the 1950s and 60s, Chinese Premier Zhou Enlai managed the nation's narcotic operations. Soviet statesman Mikhail Suslov said in 1964 that Zhao's strategy was to disarm the capitalists with the things they like to taste, which we know is drugs. There is scant evidence that any premier since Zhao has actively managed China's narcotic trade, but Chinese strategies still list drug warfare as part of its larger military strategy to destabilize rivals. You know, I had some stupid troll come in my video that I did on Opium War 2 and said, I was wrong. China is our allies. China is not America's allies. Okay, they're not. And, you know, that just go to show you how stupid many of these people are that come and make comments. They don't even know who America's allies are and who are the adversaries of America. They haven't a clue. And I remember it was this one woman I worked with, and I think I told y'all this before. And she used to always talk about how her dad hated communists and they didn't like communists and this and that. And one day I got so sick because she used to talk about this all the time. And one day I got sick of her and she opened her mouth to talk about communists again. And I told her, I said, America don't hate communists. And she was like, oh my God, how could you say that? I said, this is how I can say it. I said, if America was so concerned about communism, then why did you let all of these Chinese people come to America? They're from communist China, right? You let them all come to America and set up a Chinatown in every major city across America. Okay. You know why? Because America is a whore. Anybody that got a big enough dollar, America will let them screw her. And that's really it. You know, if they're not upset, and I'm sorry, like I said before, if Satan himself came to America and wanted to open up a Satan town across America, as long as he got a big enough dollar, America would let him do it. Okay, plain and simple. All right, so let's get back into this. Recent Chinese doctrine articulate the use of a wide spectrum of warfare against its adversary, including the United States, said in a 2014 report from the U.S. Army Special Operation Command. The People's Liberation Army, Colonel Lai Ying and Zheng Sui, outline China's vision on how China will attack the United States through a combination of military and non-military actions. These methods include trade warfare, financial warfare, ecological warfare, psychological warfare, smuggling warfare, media warfare, drug warfare, network warfare, technological warfare, fabrication warfare, resources warfare, economic aid warfare, cultural warfare, and international law warfare. That don't sound like no ally to me. By turning a blind eye, at the very least, to the actions of China, the Chinese chemical labs and mafia, the Chinese government is enabling the flow of illicit drugs that tear at the fragile fabric of U.S. society. And this is exactly what they want, ladies and gentlemen. China wants to be the world superpower. The only thing they got to do is get America out of the way. How do you get your enemy out of the way? You douse them with drugs. I mean, look, China already owns the debt. And you can see back in the 50s and 60s, they were already planning to do all this stuff to America. America's drug plague is ripping apart families, fermenting crime, crippling the economy, and destroying the next generation of Americans. That's exactly how you do it. See, this next generation is going to be so small. If China plans an attack big enough, they're not going to be able to do nothing about it. Many U.S. leaders have admitted to using drugs in the past. Yeah, they used it on the Black community during the crack epidemic. We already know about that. And 1 in 10 Americans admit they use illegal drugs on a monthly basis. While Mexican cartels and the Chinese Communist Party are facilitating and profiting from this destruction, it is ultimately the depravities of the American people that are leading the U.S. down this path to ruin. Drug pushers may be putting this chemical weapon into the hands of the Americans, but It is the Americans who are using it on themselves and demanding more and more things they like to taste. Strong marriages build strong children. Okay. So what they're pretty much saying is we need strong children who are not vulnerable to drugs. Well, good luck to that. Good luck. I think some kids are not going to turn to drugs because it's just not their thing. But if you got a community of a lot of adults using drugs and the kids are watching this, quite naturally, the kids will want to experiment and use those drugs too. And we have seen too many stories where kids are overdosing on the same drugs that the parents got in the house. So how do you build strong minds? You know, you really have to really keep the drugs away from your kids and keep them away from yourself and set the example. And right now that is lacking in America all over the place. Okay. Mexican cartels and Chinese labs would have no effect on American society if people knew and clung to, and they're talking about God's law of family living. And America is not a Christian nation. I know they try to push all that mess. Look at the stuff you do within this nation and how you treat your people and lock your people up and fake up crimes to get folks in jail. Trust me, there is nothing Christ-like in any of those things that you do. So no, I don't agree, and I will never say America's a Christian nation. But ladies and gentlemen, please tell me what you think. I really believe this stuff because it matches up with what we are seeing going on in American society today. We see a country that is literally coming apart at the seams because of the high number of people that are addicted to these drugs. And it says, you know, when I was reading, it don't take much for you to even get hooked on opioids. They said usually by the third day of taking opioids, you are hooked. You know, so you can imagine how far along after 20 years of all of these illicit drugs coming in here from China, this country is damn near destroyed by all of these drugs now. I mean, it's reality. A lot of people that are denying it, you're denying it is just making it easy for this stuff to continue to happen. But hey, I don't take opioids or fentanyls, and I'm not interested in taking that crap either. And I would urge my family to stay away from the drugs, y'all. Y'all don't need this stuff. You don't need no additional. We got enough problems in our community. We don't need no additional drug problems on top of that. It was bad enough getting through the crack epidemic. We sure don't need this. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, like the video, share the video. And I want to thank all of you for giving donations over the past few days and people that recently became patrons. Thank you. I do appreciate your support for my channel. You know, it will allow me to spend more time doing videos and trying to do stories that I think we will all be interested in hearing. Peace, family. release a story that came out in the Herald Sun. I want to thank one of my subscribers, JG, for sending this article dated August 15th, 2018. North Carolina sees the nation's second highest increase in opioid deaths. Drug overdoses in North Carolina surged in 2017 faster than any other state in the nation but one, as the potent and cheap fentanyl and its derivatives flooded the state. The Center for Disease Control said in a preliminary estimate Wednesday that 2,505 people in North Carolina overdosed on opioids and other drugs last year, a 22.5% increase from the year before. So far, 2,323 deaths have been reported in North Carolina for 2017. But more, I think they mean 2018, but I'm just going to go on. But more are expected to be tallied because of lags resulting from autopsies and reporting delays. The spikes in deaths is taking place despite efforts to curb the plague that has claimed more than 12,000 lives in the state since 1999. Public officials have not been able to keep up with the rapid spread of synthetic fentanyl, which is not only cheap, but also 40 times more potent than heroin. And they're not. Okay. Never mind. Let me just go on. And we know that all of these fentanyl analogs, ladies and gentlemen, come from China. Okay. And they try to check all of these packages coming in from overseas, but it's just so many. A lot of this just gets missed and it still makes it into the country. And don't forget, the drugs are coming in from all borders. They can't stop this thing. They can't. And look at all the billions. And they already said they've spent over $1 trillion, ladies and gentlemen, on this drug plague. And they're not putting a dent in it. All of the fentanyl, they said there's more fentanyl than ever getting into the country now. And every time they figure out one fentanyl analog, a new one comes along because they keep changing it over and over and over. They can barely keep up with what's going on in the streets when it comes down to all of these drugs flowing in. Plus, it's too many people making a lot of money on these drugs. See, if you're just looking at it at the drug dealer level, then you're not even scratching the surface. A lot of people in high political power in this country are deeply ingrained in these drugs coming in the country too. That's why they will always make it in here. It doesn't matter what efforts they make at the airport and dog sniffing for drugs. It's not going to do any good in the long run. The drugs will always make it in here. I remember I did a video, it was probably last year, and it was showing how they're now using drones to get the drugs across the border. They're not even worried about putting drugs in vehicles anymore. They're using drones. What is this going to do, putting up a border wall? This whole thing is ridiculous. And all of these high IQs, and nobody can figure out what to do with the drug plague in the country, but everybody got a high IQ. You know, with all the problems going on in America and you folks that like to go around chanting you got a high IQ, why don't you use your high IQ to resolve all of these problems going on? What's the point in having a high IQ and you're not doing nothing with it? Resolve some of these problems going on in America. Please tell me what you think, ladies and gentlemen. You know, they're claiming that 72,000 people died last year, but you know that projection is low. 22 states only reported to the CDC. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell. And ladies and gentlemen, I will see you on the next video. Peace, family. A story that came out in ABC News, August 15th, 2018. Life expectancy declining in high-income countries, especially in the U.S. study. For the first time in recent decades, life expectancy across high-income countries is declining, and this pattern is even more dramatic in the United States, according to a study published in the British Medical Journal Wednesday. It is striking that we saw so many high-income countries simultaneously experience life expectancy declines in 1 year. Jessica Y. Ho, lead author and assistant professor. Okay, I'm just going over that. I don't care about titles. Researchers from the University of Southern California examined trends in life expectancy across 18 high-income countries from 2014 to 2016. Information from the majority of these countries from 2014 to 2015 showed that people on average didn't live as long. The average decline in longevity was 0.21 years for women and 0.18 years for men. Increasing deaths related to a severe season of influenza was thought to be a contributing cause for this decline, especially in those 65 and older. In contrast to other high-income countries, declines in life expectancy in the United States were because more people were dying in their 20s and 30s. Authors suggested the ongoing opioid plague may be acting as a primary driver in this decline, particularly for men, for whom drug overdose increased significantly in the 2 past years, according to data from the National Center for Health Statistics. And see, ladies and gentlemen, this is why I'm telling you, they are downplaying the numbers. Okay, they are downplaying the numbers. There is no way you lost 60,000+ people and it impacted the life expectancy. You had to lose several 100,000 to possibly over 1 million people for there to be some type of impact on life expectancy. The figures that they're giving us, like for 2017, they're saying 72,000 people died from drug overdoses. That is no way 72,000 people would impact the overall life expectancy in America. I want you to think about that. That is impossible. Okay, think about the population size in America and 72,000 people dying from the drugs. It is not possible for that to change, that low number to change life expectancy. The number would have to be really high in order for that to happen. Okay, so you got to just take these numbers they're throwing out at us with a grain of salt, because they're never going to tell you the truth. Just understand that. Okay. Between 2015 and 2016, there was an increase in life expectancy in most countries, making up for the decline from the previous year. The United States and the United Kingdom were the exceptions, as they continued to show a decline or simply showed stagnation. Drug overdose, as well as other external causes of death, were suggested by authors to be contributing factors. This decline in U.S. life expectancy is troubling, as it's seen as a measure of the health and well-being of a population. Declines may signal problems in a nation's social and economic conditions, quality of its health care services, and worsening behavior factors. You know what? Socially, America has never done well, okay? Because whenever something is going on in a social level in America, they tend to try to ignore everything. And that's never good. That is never good. And on a social level, like I have told you before, America gets an F on social issues. They have let the entire planet see how weak they are from within. You know, they have never resolved any of the social issues from the past or even the ones in present day. And I don't expect it to change. Don't expect any of this to change. Though life expectancy is a commonly used measure of population health, other measures of health that may be relevant were not included in this study, and that's disability adjusted life expectancy, health adjusted life expectancy. It is possible that trends in these other measures may not correspond to trends in life expectancy that are depicted in this study. We need to keep a sharp eye on mortality events and understand what is happening, Ho stated. The authors feel that the earlier we can access, have access to data that can inform us of life expectancy and causes for possible declines, the quicker we can mobilize resources in the most proactive way to improve these numbers. Ho suggested that reducing influenza mortality, increasing awareness, and continuing to improve programs to aid with substance abuse would be a good focus given information in this study. This is what I conclude, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, like I said, they are severely downplaying the numbers. And I do tend to believe what they're saying about the influenza killing off people. And I think we never got the real true numbers on that. I think the number of people that died from flu related viruses, because we were putting those stories out left and right all through the fall and winter. I think it was a lot of people that lost their lives from the influenza. And then you have to add we know the drug overdoses are going through the roof, and it's getting worse each and every year. And on top of that, you have your baby boomers dying out. All of this is happening at once. And, and this article didn't even touch on the elderly, the elder population dying out, and then the younger population dying. And on top of that, low birth rate. So they can't even replace all of these people that are dying out, not only just the elderly. I know they focus a lot on the elderly. They can't even replace all of the drug addicts that are dying out, let alone the old people. So, yeah, these nations are in trouble. And it just go to show you, no matter how much money a country have, when a die-off happen, there is nothing all those incomes can do about it. Always remember that when these people are boasting about everything they got. Everything they have in their possession can't stop this huge die-off that's going on in America, can it? Please tell me what you think, ladies and gentlemen. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell. And isn't it amazing? A country full of high IQs, and they can't even resolve their problems. Can't resolve the social issues, can't resolve the drug issues, can't resolve anything. But everybody got high IQ. You know how stupid you sound? Man, peace, family. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a story that came out in 7 Boston News, August 15th, 2018. More than 30 people overdosed in Connecticut Park. And this actually just came out about 2 hours ago. Authorities say more than 30 people have overdosed from suspected synthetic marijuana at or near a Cincinnati city park. Officials say most of the overdoses happen on the New Haven Green throughout the day Wednesday. No deaths have been reported, but authorities say 2 people had life-threatening symptoms. Some people fell unconscious and others vomited. Police Chief Anthony Campbell says officers are looking for a known drug dealer who investigators believe was the source of the synthetic marijuana. Synthetic marijuana is a plant material sprayed with chemicals that has been blamed for overdoses nationwide. Officials were testing the blood of the victims to see exactly what they ingested. The overdoses follow a similar outbreak at the same park on July 4th, when more than a dozen people were treated. So that was synthetic marijuana. 30 people in one day overdose at this park. So, I said this before. When you buy these street drugs, you are gambling with your life. You don't know what it is in it. And the people that are dealing these drugs, they are just out to make a buck. They don't care who they harm. They don't care who gets sick. They don't care if you end up in the morgue or the hospital. They don't give a damn. Because even if you die off, there's hundreds of more people they can sell those drugs to. They don't run out of customers at all. But this is a shame. This is really a shame. But, again, it's the sign of the times, y'all. And it just goes to show you how bad drugs are in America. America has a very serious and deadly problem that she can't get under control at all. And all they do is call it a public health issue and throw a whole bunch of money through the politicians at it. And you can see it's not doing a damn bit of good. Please tell me what you think, ladies and gentlemen. Please leave your comment and subscribe. And please don't forget to share these videos. I deeply appreciate it. Peace, family. Gentlemen, this is a story that came out on WOSU. Ohio counties warn bad batch of heroin linked to wave of overdoses, and this is dated August 8th, 2018. 7 counties across Ohio are seeing a spike in recent drug-related emergency room visits and overdoses this summer, and officials say the incidents are connected. Between July 26 and July 30, there has been an increase in the number of drug overdose encounters in Butler, Hamilton, Lake, Lorain, Lucas, Montgomery, and Stark counties, with a total of 63 drug-related emergency room visits, 39 accidental overdoses, and 24 other drug-related visits. Helen Jones Kelly, who heads Montgomery County Department of Alcohol, Drug, Addiction, and Mental Health Services, says many of the overdose deaths are linked to a particularly bad batch of heroin laced with dangerous levels of fentanyl. There's something going on with what's on the streets right now, she said. It's more potent than what we've had in the past year, and it's been about a week and half of just constant overdoses. Not all of them resulting in death, but overdoses that bring people to the brink of death and creates a real public safety concern for us. Jones Kelly said fentanyl is known to be 100 times potent than morphine. We know that. Montgomery County Coroner's Office has also reported an increase in presence of methamphetamines in overdose victims during autopsies. At least 19 people died in July of an accidental overdose in Montgomery County. Another 3 have so far died in August. Dayton, Montgomery County numbers show the overdose rate through July is less than half of what it was this time last year, but health officials urge everyone affected by addiction to seek help. And they just talk about a smart app that they have that provides information and resources for anybody that wants to get help. So we're going to go ahead and listen to this audio.
Montgomery County health officials say the number of drug overdoses is rising. Montgomery is among 7 counties across Ohio that are seeing a spike in drug-related emergency room visits and overdoses this summer. Helen Jones Kelly heads Montgomery County's Department of Alcohol, Drug Addiction, and Mental Health Services. She says many of the overdose deaths are linked to heroin laced with fentanyl.
There's something going on with what's on the street right now. It's more potent than what we've had in the past year. And it's been about a week and a half of just constant overdoses. Not all of them resulting in deaths, but overdoses, which brings people to the brink of death and creates a real public safety and concern for us.
Dayton Montgomery County numbers show the overdose rate through July is less than half of what it was at this time last year, but health officials urge anyone affected by opioid addiction to seek assistance. Montgomery County's launched a new smartphone app that comes with treatment information and resources. The free app is called Get Help Now Montgomery County.
There you go. You know, when you're on drugs, you are really gambling with your life with these street drugs. Many of these drug addicts buy these drugs. They don't even know what's in it, and they take it because they are so desperate for that next high. But please tell me what you think, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, it will not be the last bad batch of drugs on the street. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family. This is an article that came out August 13th, 2018 in EHS Today. Workplace drug overdoses drive need for action. In 2016, 90% of Kentucky overdose deaths involve opioids, as the substance abuse rate rise due to increased opioid use. Preventing workplace overdose fatalities is increasingly becoming a reality for employers. The Kentucky Fatality Assessment and Control Evaluation Program has issued a hazard alert after 2017 data showed 5 employees overdosed in the workplace, or 7.4% of the state's 68 workplace fatalities. The organization, which is tasked with researching and preventing occupational fatalities, highlighted the following 3 fatalities in its bulletin. Case 1, at 8:50 a.m., a mason working on a construction project left the work site and entered his personal vehicle located in a temporary employee parking lot. When coworkers searched for him, he was found in his vehicle with his head leaning against the driver's side window. The employee was transported to the local hospital where he died. The cause of death was a combined fentanyl methadone drug overdose, 2017. Case 2, an iron worker did not return from a scheduled break that ran from 8:30 to 8:50 a.m. At approximately 11 a.m., coworkers found the employee unresponsive in a break room, and he was transported to the hospital where he died. The cause of death was an acute methamphetamine overdose, 2017. Case 3. A residential construction worker was found unresponsive by a coworker in a worksite bathroom. The employee was found with a needle and a spoon near his body. He was transported to the local hospital where he died. The cause of death was a combined fentanyl heroin drug overdose, 2017. Drug use is contributing to an increase in worker turnover, reduced productivity, and increase injury and death rates. The most frequent industries affected as a result of drug overdoses in Kentucky include construction, restaurant, food service, and manufacturing, according to Kentucky Face. Kentucky Face also provided recommendations for implementing a drug-free workplace program, which are available in the slideshow. So let's take a look at the slideshow. Okay, so it's just talking about training and recognizing the signs of substance abuse on the job. So you want to look for things like extreme mood swings, frequent absenteeism, and personality change. Have an effective plan. So, they're talking about intervention services and drug testing with state laws and regulations. Implement a worker assistance plan. So what they want to do is assist the employee that needs help with substance abuse with help. So I guess, help with finding rehab and some type of treatment in the area where they live. Keep Narcan on hand. I would think that employees would automatically do that since it's just such a high number of people on these jobs today that have, drug abuse problems. You would think that that would be just an automatic given. So that's their slideshow. But ladies and gentlemen, please tell me what you think. I've done enough of these stories about drug abuse, and I've even showed videos of people clearly high on their jobs. But please tell me what you think. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family. Ladies and gentlemen, this is an article that came out in crimereport.org. It came out like a month ago, but it has some really interesting things in here that I want you to hear. Now, rule injustice, the hidden crisis in America. I had told many of you in my other videos that now people in the rural areas go to jail in much higher numbers than people in the urban area. Wait until you find out how long this has been going on. This is not anything recent. It's been going on for a while, y'all. Listen to this. Soaring jail populations, particularly in rural areas, are now driving America's crisis of mass incarceration. A conference at John Jay College was told Tuesday. Christian Henrichsen, research director for the Center on Sentencing and Corrections at the Vera Institute of Justice, said the number of individuals in pretrial detention in rural and small counties with fewer than 250,000 inhabitants, listen to this, began surpassing urban detention rates. That means more people in rural areas started to go to jail in higher numbers than the people in the urban areas in 2008. from 2008 all the way up until now, rural arrests for crimes have been outpacing arrests from urban areas since 2008. And it continues to increase even as urban jail populations are falling. In the last couple of decades, mass incarceration was really targeted in cities, and that's because our areas are over-policed. Okay, so as long as it's over-policed, and more than 11 million jail admissions are recorded every year. Yet, few Americans realize that jails are a primary engine of mass incarceration. In the US polls show that rural residents continue to think of it as a largely facing urban area. So the people in the rural areas are so damn ignorant. They think most of the arrests going on in the country are in urban areas, but it's actually in their areas. And that's because, see, they hide this information. They don't want you to know this. Okay. Among the factors driving the increase is the growth of, so they're trying to say, to sum it up in a nutshell, mental illness. But isn't everybody in jail mentally ill? I mean, I don't think it's just the people from the rural areas. You know, come on, don't try to make it seem like nobody in jail got mental illness except for the people from the rural areas. Give me a break. Okay, so they're saying in the whole prison population here in America, about 550,000 people have a serious mental illness, and they're sitting in prison or jails. And another 900,000 are under correctional supervision. And, you know, they're saying, oh, this is a shameful tragedy, America tragedy. Yeah, well, America loves locking people up. So this is the society that they decided to go with, and it's really crappy. Okay. Because they or their relatives cannot afford the cost of money bonds. Almost all of the jail growth in the US since 2000 has been in pre-trial detention. So these are the people that are going to jail, they're charged, but they're never convicted. And see, they're telling you that's really what the majority is in this country. So if everybody is so violent in committing all these crimes, then how come the system is failing to convict them? And they're just saying the typical thing we know. If you're a person of color, you know, you always get the higher bond than someone white that committed the same crime. We always knew that. That's not news. Okay. Let me just go down a little. Okay, so what they're saying, they need to pay more attention to pre-trial services and risk management, and we've heard this before. And they're also talking about bail reform and how it really impacts people that can't afford to get themselves out of jail. Money bonds only detain people who are too poor to post bond. And they let bad guys who can afford to post bond get out without being assessed or having conditions that would improve public safety. Which is true. You know, that's always that's always been a trick that they have used to keep the poor in jail. Justice Institute believes elimination of money bonds could reduce sharply the number of individuals held in pre-trial detention, noting that programs underway in Washington, D.C. and New Jersey have made important progress in that area. But solutions to the larger issues driving jail growth, such as the failure to find alternative ways to deal with individuals with mental illness and addiction issues, continue to elude policymakers, the conference told. There's something wrong with a society that is willing to spend more to incarcerate people than to treat them. Well, this has always been America. This is how America works. I don't know why you're surprised about that and you're a judge. But ladies and gentlemen, please tell me what you think. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family. Drug possession, or they're in there and never been convicted of a crime. Those are who they got hosed up in the prisons. But they got meth heads and all kinds of people running around out here with felonies and everything on a rap sheet, and they're free. I said it before, I'll say it again. This system is very poor in America. This whole legal system is the worst on the face of the earth. It's ran like crap. But let's get into this story from Fox 2, Detroit. Woman 19 killed in crash by suspect fleeing from police. Let me go ahead and play the video.
I got off a plane this morning and had to go to the medical examiner to identify my daughter's body. And she's 19.
The most difficult day they could ever imagine for the parents of 19-year-old Deja Crawford of Detroit coming true.
My daughter was the most beautiful creature I've ever seen that God ever created.
On her way home from church Sunday evening, Deja driving a silver Nissan with her 15-year-old brother, Dallin, in the car. The siblings near Lappin and Fairport streets when witnesses say they spotted a green Ford Taurus speeding straight toward them.
She had her foot on the gas from 8 Mile. You heard her before she got down here.
Warren police trying to pull over the woman speeding near 8 Mile and Fairfield moments earlier, but the woman going too fast through this neighborhood.
Well, the officer backed off, but I would say she was probably going in excess of 50, 60 miles an hour.
The woman slamming into Deja and Dallin, their mother getting a phone call heading to the scene.
And they weren't responsive, neither one of them at the moment. And the only thing that I could do at that time was to just drop to my knees and pray.
Warren police say after smashing into that Nissan, that driver got out and ran.
I think she was high.
Why do you say that?
Because she couldn't run.
That driver, who Warren police identify as 28-year-old Alyssa Verbeek, has quite the rap sheet. Fleeing and eluding police, weapons and drug charges, home invasion, and prostitution. Verbeek even jumping from a second-story window to escape drug treatment.
We did find suspected crack cocaine in the car.
Dallin suffering a concussion and a bruised hip, okay physically, but without his best friend, who Deja's parents describe as fun-loving and compassionate. An aspiring writer at Eastern Michigan University, even writing and performing her own songs.
For you and I can be perfectly imperfect. I know it ain't worth it, but
She was beautiful. She was, talented.
And I'm going to miss her a lot. A lot.
Now, as Verbeek is expected to be arraigned as early as Tuesday, and Detroit police investigate the crash. These parents also questioning that Warren officer's role in their only daughter's death.
We deserve to know what happened with, our daughter.
It didn't have to happen. It didn't have to happen. We shouldn't be in this situation.
In Detroit, Erica Erickson, Fox 2 News.
Oh, boy. Did you hear her rap sheet? She had no business being free. She had no business being free. But you know, that's what happens in this country. They let creatures like her out here and roaming the streets among the rest of us. But somebody that has done far less, just found a little weed on them, they're in jail for astronomical years. And her, she had no business really being free. Now she took someone's life. And for what? A woman speeding away from Warren police caused a fatal crash, killing a 19-year-old and injuring her little brother Sunday night. I got off a plane this morning and I had to go to the medical examiner to identify my daughter's body, said Nathaniel Crawford, and she's 19. That's a damn shame for a father to have to go through that. So he lost his 19-year-old girl. Dacia Crawford. And she was beautiful. I mean, had her whole life ahead of her. And it just burns me up when I see stories like this. I'm glad her brother survived, because it would have been far more tragic if he would have been lost too. He could have easily been lost. So you saw how narrow the street was, right? She was tearing down that little narrow neighborhood street at 50 to 60 miles an hour, fleeing from police and high on meth. And she went head on with them and killed this beautiful young lady right here. Now, look at her degenerate picture. The driver, who Warren police identified as 28 years old, Alyssa Verbeck, has quite a rap sheet, fleeing and eluding police, weapons and drug charges, home invasion, and prostitution. And this bitch was free. She got felonies in her background and she was free. See, if these cops were really doing their jobs, somebody like her would not be on the streets. But we know in this legal system, people don't do their jobs. They only want to come and over police in some areas and hardly police in the areas they come from. And this is the end result. Somebody like this animal is walking the streets free with a damn rap sheet filled with felonies. Well, her brother suffered, Dalen, her brother suffered a concussion and he was bruised hip, but he was okay. But now they have to plan a funeral for their daughter. and it says that the woman that hit her once jumped from a second-story window to escape drug treatment. So she wasn't even looking to help herself. She didn't give a damn. And that's the problem with all of these junkies on the street. This is why it ain't no damn public health issue. Y'all can keep labeling it that crap all you want. That's not what this is. This is not no public health issue. Yeah, see, it's a public health issue until they go out here and kill somebody. Please tell me what you think, ladies and gentlemen. I can barely keep myself together on this one. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family. my subscribers, Claude Black, for this story from the Daily Mail. Huge surge in the rate of opioid-addicted pregnant women. CDC data revealed the number quadrupled in 15 years. And these are women that are hooked on opioids at the time of their pregnancy. And of course, the babies are coming out addicted from all of the opioid abuse. So although there is a low birth rate in the country, it is surging in all of the opioid babies that are born now. The number of women who are hooked on opioids when they reach childbirth has dramatically increased. A new report has found over 15 years, from 1999 to 2014, the rate of pregnant women suffering from opioid use disorder quadrupled, the CDC revealed on Thursday. They found that across the 50 states, the rates are highest in Vermont and West Virginia. Those are really not even big states. But, those places have a high number of opioid, abuse going on. Opioid use during pregnancy can result in the death of the mother or the baby, preterm birth, and infant withdrawal symptoms like seizures, excessive crying, and breathing problems. And ladies and gentlemen, those babies are the most expensive to treat for drug addiction. And they tend to stay in the hospital longer than babies that are born of other drug problems. The opioid babies take the longest, and this is definitely going to have an impact on their life later. I would not be surprised if a lot of these babies have all kinds of learning disabilities, because we saw that in the crack babies. There were behavioral problems and stuff. You're going to see the same thing happening with these babies. They will make the claim, oh, no, they'll be all right. No, they won't. No, they won't. The effects of this will show up as they grow up through childhood and adulthood. It's going to show up. In the first of its kind study, the CDC used data from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Health Cost and Utilization Project to look at hospital discharge data. In 1999, they found that only 1.5 of every 1,000 women going to a hospital to deliver depended on or abused opioids. In 2014, the latest year that data was available, the rate had spiked to 333% to 6.5 per 1,000 women, translating to almost 25,000 deliveries nationwide that year. The data was only available for 30 states and the District of Columbia. Researchers found that the highest rates were in Vermont and West Virginia. Why did you have a study in all 50 states at one time, and now it's down to 30 states? See, this is part of trying to hide what's going on. That's all it is. This is all part of trying to hide the information. The rate increased 97-fold in Vermont from 0.5 cases per 100,000 women in 2001 to 84.6 in 2014. In West Virginia, by increase was 53-fold. Oh my goodness, 53-fold? Oh my, I don't think I've ever seen that. From 0.6 cases in 2000 to 32.1 in 2014. In 1999, the lowest rate was in Iowa and the highest rate was in Maryland, while in 2014, the lowest rate was in Washington, D.C., and the highest rate was in Vermont. Over the 15-year period, California and Maine had the lowest average rates of increase in opioid use disorder. The highest average rates were found in Maine, New Mexico, Vermont, and West Virginia. These findings illustrate that devastating impact of opioid plague on families across the U.S., including on the very youngest, said CDC Director Robert Redfield in a statement. Untreated opioid use disorder during pregnancy can lead to heartbreaking results. Each case represents a mother, a child, and a family in need of continued treatment and support. The report's author says that different policies in U.S. states could have an impact on the state-to-state variability. Sorry about that, y'all. Currently, 8 states require tests for prenatal drug exposure if it's suspected. In 24 states, as well as in Washington, D.C., healthcare professionals are required to report suspected use. Additionally, 23 states and D.C. considered substance abuse during pregnancy to be child abuse. And it really is. It really is. These women know they're impacting their baby with their drug abuse, but they won't stop, because this could result in a woman being involuntarily committed to psychiatric hospital. You know what? During the crack epidemic, if a woman was pregnant and her baby died as a result of crack, she went to jail for that. Okay. The authors say pregnant women could take great measures to hide opioid use from their doctors. Several studies have shown that the devastating consequences opioid use disorder can have on both pregnant women and their babies. According to the Mayo Clinic, opioids can cross from the mother's blood stream to the placenta and enter the fetal central nervous system. Now, how many of these women are going to jail? Because during the crack epidemic, the Black women went to jail and were accused of child abuse and murder if the baby died. So how many times are you? I bet you none. Or their sentences are never going to be like it was during the crack epidemic. Complications that can be faced, including preterm labor. Okay, so they're talking about the miscarriages, which will happen. Occasionally, babies can experience neonatal abstinence syndrome, which occurs when the baby experiences withdrawal symptoms from drugs they were exposed to in the womb. Stanford Child's, let me just go down a little, because we know they treat with methadone, and those babies have to go through withdrawal symptoms. Because I did an article, it was last year, not on this channel, but my old channel, and it was saying that each opioid addicted baby, I believe, cost the hospital something like $75,000 to treat. It's way higher than treatment of babies addicted to other drugs, because it just takes a lot longer for these babies to dry out. And they have to do that because the babies cry so much. They said they do a lot of excessive crying. So in many cases, if you give this to a drug addict mother, the baby, and she take it home, that baby will still end up dead because she'll kill it from all the not being able to take all the crying from it. Okay. The author also said that the variation could be a result of the differing rates by which doctors prescribe opioids in different states. According to the CDC, most recent available data, doctors in West Virginia wrote an average of 98.6 opioid prescriptions per 100 people. You see, they gave opioids to these folks like candy, but when it came down to us, we couldn't get no more than a 2-week supply if you were Black. But see, this is why the white community is suffering more than anyone else, because those doctors was giving these people 500 pills in one prescription. But like us, we couldn't get nothing but a week or two. And if you needed more, you had to go back so the doctor could write you another maybe 10 days. That's how they did us. Had the nerve to talk about we were going to abuse the drugs, but look who's abusing it now. You reap what you sow. All right, so that's in 2016, which could mean the higher rates of pregnant women who are also prescribed opioids. In 2017, more than 72,000 Americans died from drug overdoses. And you could probably take that number and times it by 10, because these folks are lying. It's no way drug addiction from opioids is that low, 72,000. Again, this is them masking and disguising the numbers. And as I told y'all before, when I had a talk with my doctor, he said it is more like 500 to maybe even 520 people dying per day on opioids in America. But they'll have you think that it's 115, 91 people a day. They're lying about that. They're lying. Plus, remember, the CDC only report on 22 states. They do not do all 50 states. So the numbers that they are putting out is not the real number. This is their attempt of trying to hide how bad it is. Okay, so, it goes into Donald Trump declaring it a public health emergency and all this stuff. And Donald Trump really is not helping this situation at all, as you can see. It is really getting worse. I have not read any articles that said the entire country is turning around from opioids. It is going strong. And the reason why it's going strong is because they've given amnesty to these drug users, and they can do no wrong. They can go out here and buy and do up all the illicit drugs they want. If they fall out in the street, the person that calls won't get arrested if you call for help. And the person that's passed out on the ground, they don't go to jail. And as long as you keep your system ran like that, this drug addiction is not going anywhere. They are coddling and pacifying these people, and they're really not helping the situation at all. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I will see you on the next video. Peace, family. Gentlemen, I've been saying for quite some time, most Black people are in jail for non-violent drug offenses. And as time goes on, you will see this too. Okay, this is not something that I'm pulling from thin air. It is something that can easily be proven in the data. This came out on WUSA 9 News. Police, 86% of the people arrested for marijuana in DC are Black. Marijuana-related arrests are up 186%. between 2015 and 2017, according to a USA 9 analysis of arrest data posted to the DC Metropolitan Police Department website. So in order for it to be that high, they are targeting Black people. That's the only way it can be that high. Black people in DC are highly targeted by the Metro Police there. So 86%. So I'm going to take you down to where this chart is. The fact that 86% of those arrested are Black in majority Black and brown areas of the city, even though the level of marijuana use is the same among Black and whites in the district, only proves that MPD is continuing a racist policing strategy that I hope the mayor doesn't consider to be DC's value. Okay, so as you can see on this chart, it shows you all of the districts around Washington, D.C. And each one of these districts, they are over-policing and intentionally going after Black people. That's the only way these percentages could be that high. You ain't causing no problems out here. You are being targeted. In 2017, 63% of all marijuana arrests in 2017 came in police districts 5, which is your green right here, 6 and 7. 6 is the orange, 7 is the yellow. So most of the arrests came from these districts right here in DC, which encompass wards 7 and 8. WUSA 9 found in 2017 marijuana arrests were up 97% in those districts, while they have fallen 9% in the rest of the city. Let me tell you why they're going overboard with these arrests. Because it's not that much crime going on. Crime is down 47% in the urban communities around America. So there's hardly no crime going on in the Black neighborhoods. So whenever they can't get you on a real crime, then they go to petty shit like marijuana. And that's what's happening. They have to go to petty crimes because it's not enough violent crimes going on. So this is the result, as we've been saying all along, of over policing the Black neighborhoods. And that's exactly what's going on. This is clearly racist. Clearly racist. Green said the data indicates DC police are selectively enforcing marijuana laws in low-income, predominantly African-American parts of the city. MPD released a statement on Tuesday night challenging the findings of WUSA 9 report. I don't care what the police is challenging. You already got a bad reputation in this country. Policing in America is a disgrace. It's a disgrace. It is the worst probably on the entire planet. I don't even call this shit police work. You're sending your gang, your biggest gang in the country, which is the cops, out on the street to do the policing. And ladies and gentlemen, I want you to always remember something. Damn near all of these cops out here, a lot of them have rap sheets. They're out here policing you, and some of them are a bigger criminal than the people that they're running around here policing. The stories are out there. The cops in this country got criminal backgrounds. How the hell is anybody supposed to respect any of this? You don't deserve no damn respect. in their statement wrote, "We are disappointed to see WUSA 9 publish such inflammatory story." Well, that doesn't mean nothing. Okay, if they looked at the data and this is what comes up, see, these police departments and these chief of police and these police unions, they are the problem. They are the problem. They know they're out here doing this kind of stuff, but you don't call it out. When you call it out, they try to act like the person or organization that calls it out is worse than them doing these actual bogus ass marijuana arrests and over policing in the Black community. And it rings true to the fact that we are being targeted on purpose. They are going out here targeting the Black community on purpose. And this is how they try keep the crime stats up when it's really not that much crime going on. If it was a lot of crime going on, then the arrest for marijuana should not be this high. That's a petty thing to arrest someone for. All right, so I don't care about the police statement. They can shove it. All right, so now the department made only 19 arrests or 2% for possession. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. The percentage is high. If it wasn't high, then why did they feel the need to come out and defend what is very obvious is racist and over policing Black neighborhoods? So every time a police officer arrests someone for smoking marijuana in front of their home, which is often where this is taking place, you take that police officer off the streets, Ettinger said. And they are in the station. They are booking the person for 2 or 3 hours, maybe the rest of their shift. Meanwhile, the neighborhood is getting robbed. So they're not even worried about going after the hardened criminals. They're driving up and down the street to see who's sitting on their stoop to grab them and arrest them for smoking marijuana. So that's how they get most of these people. So common sense is going to have to tell people in DC, don't sit on your stoop smoking marijuana out in the open. Even if you don't want to take it somewhere else, don't be out in the open where a cop can just roll up on you. So some of our people are going to have to use better common sense. I mean, we can say don't smoke it, but on a realistic level, that is not going to happen. It's not going to happen. You can say all of those words, and we know reality tells us Black people are not going to stop smoking pot. Okay, so I don't smoke anything. I don't smoke cigarettes. I don't smoke anything. But those of you that do smoke, don't do it out in the open where some damn cop can roll up on you. You got to start using common sense. Because you know what these cops are doing. Don't make it easy for them. So they're not looking for hardened criminals. They're looking for an easy arrest. Something very easy and simple to do, arrest somebody for marijuana. So I'll say it before and I'll say it again. We are the most targeted race of people in the country. Everybody wants to go to poor Black neighborhoods to do all kinds of dirty shit. And that's the way it is. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell. And I'll see you on the next video. This type of stuff is so frustrating to me. We know these things are happening. And I'm probably going to do a hangout later on in the week to talk about the Chicago shootings, which I do not believe any gang did that in Chicago. I believe that shooting was done by outsiders. Shooting at 66 people is not even the trademark of a gang. Gangs don't even go that overboard in shooting people. That is not a gang. Okay, that's not a gang, period. Those are outsiders coming into the community and doing that shooting. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell. I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family. And gentlemen, this is another article that came out USA Today, August 2nd, 2018. Guess what? The US is admitting that we can't fight our opioid crisis alone. They need help from the entire world to fight the opioid situation going on. They need everybody's help on this globe with this plague. When it comes to opioids, we don't have the luxury of battling it on the home front alone. We need other countries to help us in this crisis. So they want everybody to get on board to fight the opioid plague that's happening in America. You know, I find that to be very interesting. You know, it shows you this is really bad. And it shows you that they are definitely lowballing the number to all of us when it comes down to opioids. If you only have 63,600 Americans dying, why would you care? That number really is not big when you think of the population in America, right? So why would you need the whole globe to get on board with this over such a low number? Because the number's way higher, y'all. Why would you ask other countries around the world for help with your opioid situation and those numbers are that low? That's another thing that's kind of pulling the Band-Aid off of the lies that are being told. So, and deaths specifically from opioids trafficked from overseas more than double from 2015 to 2016. Experts predict that nearly 500,000 Americans could lose their lives to opioids over the next decade. Please, you know what? At this point, I really believe it's well over 1 million people that have died from this thing. We just have to expect they are not going to ever tell the truth. So what they are saying is they want other countries to get involved, especially Mexico and China, because those are your ones that are heavily pushing all of the drugs into the US. And it's coming from Canada. I don't even know why they got Canada excluded, because a lot of drugs come across the Canadian border as well. Curb fentanyl production overseas. It starts with reducing the production of fentanyl, which can make a huge difference and save countless lives. U.S. diplomacy has been a key factor focused on assisting the Chinese to improve and enforce their laws. And see, that's the thing. The Chinese do not go after the drug cartels as heavy as they do here in the US. You know, the Chinese were initially slow to ban production of new drugs that mimic fentanyl's effect. As a result, large quantities are manufactured there at low cost and sold abroad. U.S. diplomatic pressure is helping change that by getting China to ban production of 4 of these analogs. They're talking about the fentanyl analogs that are coming into the country. In 2017, China's new law are enabling our government to carry out joint investigations and go after Chinese producers and distributors. But you know what? China won't even send their drug cartels here. There's a couple of them that have been caught, and China don't ship them to the U.S. And the U.S. gets upset about that, but there's really nothing they can do. And also, when they're jailed over there, their jail sentences are lenient. They don't get put in jail like they do here. When they catch a drug cartel, they may put them behind bars for really the rest of their lives. But over in China, they got more lenient kind of sentences. To prevent other countries from producing fentanyl, as China cracks down, the United States is pressuring multilateral bodies to tighten global regulations, including getting the United Nations Commission on Narcotic Drugs to strictly regulate fentanyl's key ingredients worldwide. With additional engagement, America can help enforce these new global regulations and make it harder for new fentanyl-like drugs to evade existing laws. In a step in the right direction, the United States recently secured an unambiguous, you know what? Let me just stop right here. I'm sorry. Let me just stop right here. Illegal drugs are never going to stop coming to the U.S. Now, they'll get all of these things in places, regulation, laws, and throw more money because they seem to have a ton of money to throw into this drug plague that's going on. And no matter how hard they have tried over these last 20 years, this thing is going strong and is killing more people than ever. Too much money is being made on illegal drugs. A lot of lives have been lost, but they don't care about that. They really don't care. The only thing the politicians in the U.S. are doing is shoving more money at it, but they have probably put over $1 trillion into this drug plague, and it's not going anywhere because that's not the answer in resolving this whole thing. See, the answer in resolving it is what they don't want to do, and that's mass incarcerate these junkies. But see, that's how we got out of the crack addiction. We got out of the crack addiction from mass incarceration. Once people were in prison, they had no choice but to dry out from the drug. So mass incarceration actually helped in eliminating the crack cocaine addiction that was going on in the Black community. And we know the government set us up. It was not like the opioid plague where these people freely go to their doctors and get 500 pills at one time. We didn't have the luxury of doing that. The whole thing was forced upon us. But if you look at it on terms of a global scale, all of these countries are making a lot of money, right? Mexico's making a lot of money, China, and even here in the US, a lot of money is being made off of illegal drugs. And because of that, ladies and gentlemen, China ain't going to work hard to stop that fentanyl to come here. They're not. Everybody is benefiting at the expense of the drug user. And then they have amnesty, so the drug user never goes to jail. So you can call for help when they pass out, and when they bring them back from Narcan, they don't go to jail. They don't go to jail. And right now, you see them setting up injection sites. So if they're setting up injection sites, how are you discouraging these people from being on the drug? You're not. You're enablers at that point. You're enabling them. You're saying, come here, shoot up your illegal drugs in front of medical staff where they can watch and monitor you, check your pulse, check your heart rate, make sure you're okay. And if you're not okay, we can hit you with a few doses of Narcan. That's enabling, in my opinion. You're enabling them to be on drugs. But I don't know, how do you fight a plague that has gone on for 20 years and millions of your citizens are abusing the drug? How do you fight that? You can't. You can't. Not the way they're doing it. You can't. And to be honest with you, I have seen them push all this legislation before, especially when it comes down to drugs coming across the Mexican border. It has not slowed up any of the drugs coming across the border. Not at all. You know, so just seeing them put these regulations in place, I just don't see this drug plague going anywhere. Maybe I'm missing something, you know? And even on the dark web, the majority of the packages, those drug packages are making it to their destination. And that's the homes of these people that are ordering the drugs through the dark web. And if you remember, I think it was last summer, the FBI shut down a lot of dark web pages that were selling drugs. But as you can see, it didn't make an impact on the opioid plague that's going on. It made no impact whatsoever. It did not drop the amount of people that were using opioids at all. It's still going strong. So shutting down some pages on the dark web, that's not going to work. So until they deal with the user, this ain't going nowhere. And they're still screaming it's public health. The user should not be in jail. That's not the thing to do. And you can best believe this is not going anywhere. America right now is enabling junkies. They're not helping. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell. And I will leave the link to this article in the description box. Peace, family. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank JG, one of my subscribers, for sending this article, Fentanyl and Cocaine Deaths Rise. And this came out on BBC News. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is over in the UK. So it just go to show you how wide reaching this plague really is. It's really a global plague. but it's the worst in the US because everything is so accessible when it comes down to drugs in this country. So the number of deaths in England and Wales due to synthetic opioids, fentanyl, rose by 29% in 2017. So forms of the drug used to treat cancer pain are often imported illegally from Chinese laboratories and sold to users via the dark web. The deaths of psychoactive substances like spice or methadone have. The policy campaigners called on the government to fund drug treatment and stop criminalizing users. See, they're doing the same thing in the US. You know, they want to give amnesty to the user, you know, and it's really the user that's bringing down the country because you're spending a fortune on the Narcan and the personnel and spending all this money on reviving these people, and they really don't even want to be saved. So if you look down on this chart, the deaths from fentanyl increased by 29% last year, and you can see in the UK in 2008 where they were as far as deaths. And when you look across, you see right here, 2017, it's going through the roof. It's no different there. Last year, heroin and morphine-related deaths decreased for the first time since 2012, while cocaine deaths rose. In total, 3,756 people were recorded as dying from legal and illegal drugs in England and Wales in 2017. Now, you can best believe they're lowballing that number, ladies and gentlemen. They're lowballing the number, you know, just like they do that here in the US. Cocaine-related deaths, highest since record began. So you can see they had their highest cocaine deaths in 2017. And just like the US, the deaths have been going on from 1993 all the way up to 2017. It's just increasing every single year. 2/3 of these deaths were accidental, related to drug misuse. Interesting. England and Wales rate of 66.1 drug deaths per 1 million is now more than 3 times the rate for the EU, Turkey, and Norway, according to the figures from the European Drug Report. Fentanyl, okay, so as you can see, China imports all of the fentanyl into the UK just like it does here in the US. The number of fentanyl deaths increased from 58 in 2016 to 75 in 2017. The drug has been found mixed with heroin, causing accidental overdoses in users. The most dangerous version of the opioid, known as carfentanil, which we know is the elephant tranquilizer, was behind 27 accidental fatalities during the year, the first time it has been recorded in death certificates. Harry Shapiro, director, DrugWise, said the fentanyl creeping into UK drug supplies was at least 100 times stronger than other Class A drugs. And we know just a grain, the size of a grain of salt is fatal. Meanwhile, there were 432 deaths related to cocaine in 2017, the highest amount ever recorded. Earlier this year, Security Minister Ben Wallace warned the UK was fast becoming the biggest consumer of cocaine in Europe. And as you can see, these are the deaths per million people in England and Wales. And you can see the Northeast is definitely the heaviest drug users. So you can see, I mean, it's just less of it going on in the lighter shades, but you can see it's a big problem over there in the UK. So they are struggling with their own demons when it comes down to drug abuse, even there. The latest data showed the northeast of England had significantly higher rate of drug deaths than other regions, 83 per million people, followed by the northwest of England and Wales. London had the lowest number of deaths. In Scotland, drug deaths hit a record high in 2017 and were the worst in Europe. I'm not surprised. You know, it seems like no matter where these folks are in the world, the addiction is bad. And it's bad in Ireland. It's bad all over a lot of countries in Europe, as well as New Zealand and Australia. They're also dealing with drug deaths that are going on there. And it's all the same. You know, I was even looking at the opioid epidemic in South Africa. I mean, it is literally going on everywhere across the globe. You know, it's just bad in some areas and then others, but the Western nations are definitely the worst. US, Canada, Mexico are the worst in the West. The US, nobody is doing more drugs than the US, and that's really a disgrace. This country claiming to be a superpower and claiming to be the land of the free, home of the brave, got the biggest junkies on the face of the earth. Go figure, right? But please tell me what you think, ladies and gentlemen. I am not surprised that the UK is struggling with this epidemic as well as other places. This is just the sign of the times. You know, the same as everywhere, these folks are not reproducing anymore. And they seem to be, any place where they're not reproducing seems to have the worst drug problems. But please tell me what you think. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family. Gentlemen, I would like to thank one of my subscribers, JG, for sending this article. It's dated August 2nd, 2018. Donald Trump immigration policy puts rural America in danger. And this came out in USA Today. Rural Americans who overwhelmingly voted for Trump apparently thought they were dealing a blow to a government they believed had forgotten them. What they did, though, in the midst of a violent crime spike in rural America, was deal a kneecap to themselves. How? They voted for a president whose unleashing of immigration and customs enforcement could be silencing an immigrant community that would otherwise report crime and help drive out an element that putting rural America in danger. The 911 call that nearly got him deported, and this is Wilson Rodriguez. 6 months ago, the father of 3 dialed 911 on a trespasser after a series of break-ins attempts. So barely an hour later, he was swept by ICE. Okay. So what they're saying ultimately, because these immigrants are living in rural areas, many of them will not report crime because of fear of ICE coming in on them. Okay, so the case got national attention. He's now back with his family in Washington. But, you can't be surprised about that. ICE is really sweeping a lot of people for obvious reasons. If you came to my hangout, you'll understand why ICE is doing the things that they're doing. As for, let's go down here to rural crime rates on the rise. For the first time in a decade, the violent crime rate in rural America rose above the national average. Right now, the crime in the country, the biggest crime going on in America is happening in the rural area, not the urban areas. The urban areas are actually, things are getting better in the urban areas. And that's a big reason why it's being gentrified now, because things are a lot more relaxed in the urban area and less crime. But in the rural area, everything is going through the roof. That rise, the Wall Street Journal reported in May, was buoyed by the heroin and opioid plague inundating rural communities. But also rising in those communities is the immigration population, who could provide much needed assistance in fighting that crime wave if Trump's crackdown had not put roadblocks in place that have the potential to drive those immigrants underground. Last year, Tom K. Wong, a professor of political science at the University of California, San Diego, analyzed FBI crime data and found that crimes if law enforcement was working with ICE. Since 1990, more immigrants, largely from Mexico and Central America, have been settling into rural environs of the Midwest and Southeast. In fact, 2018 Pew Research Center analysis found that were it not for 600,000 immigrants moving into the nation's rural counties between 2000 and 2014, those counties, which continue to bleed their native-born population, would have lost 950,000 residents. A 2016 study in the Journal of Ethnicity and Criminal Justice note that immigrants in most communities also bring a propensity to strengthen social institution that leads to drops in crime. As deportation fears force drops in crime. As deportation fears force Latinos into silence, rural communities grappling